First game came out in 2001. Thank you, Buck. Appreciate it.
So did Sorcerer's Stone and Fellowship of the Ring and X-Men and actually X-Men might have been 2000.
No, you were wrong. cut this out.
Cut that out. Cut that out. With that, let us discuss Halo on Paramount Plus, and I all know you're borrowing accounts because nobody has one of their own. There's about 5 people that have Paramount Plus, and we're all using their accounts.
Basically, yes.
Sean, I guess maybe we should talk, what's your level of fandom with Halo? Because I consider myself probably even less than generic. I am a low tier, surface level, tip of the iceberg Halo fan.
I loved Halo since inception, since it came out way back whenever, 2002-ish. I don't know. I never looked at the date, but the original Xbox, it really hit stardom. I guess it rocketed into the atmosphere because of the online multiplayer coming around the early 2000s and Halo 2 and having the multiplayer games. And there was still so many like LAN parties back then.
We've all stayed up until 3 a.m. playing Slayer.
Mm-hmm. Oh, there were many a night where I was going to say call in sick, where I would just not go to school the next day. Before I had a job.
I played so many school nights, and I was falling asleep in class because I was up until 3 a.m. playing Halo.
My mom got a flat screen very early on when they were still hella expensive, and it would do split screen. So I would watch Euro Trip on one half and play Halo 2 on the other half.
That is the most early 2000s thing, like in one capsule I've ever heard.
Just on loop. I fucking love Eurotrip. It's a great movie.
Oh, I almost, because you just made a Twitter comment about that, right? Like movies you've seen 20 plus times.
Yes.
I was in the middle of typing up a response to that, and then I got distracted because I was going to say, this isn't where I parked my car.
This is definitely where I parked my car.
Anyways, going into the show. So this is definitely a show that exists in the Halo world. And what it reminds me of is when there is a movie like, I don't know, Walking Tall with The Rock. There's a difference between based on a true story and inspired by a true story. And I think the Walking Tall one, they had to say inspired by, because they changed so many things. And so far what I'm getting in the show, but the point's coming, I promise, is the show feels inspired by Halo. Doesn't feel like it's based on much, and I don't feel I feel maybe the passion towards the popularity, but maybe not the passion towards the source material, which isn't necessarily prominent. When you have something that you're spending this much money on, you have to reach people, more of an audience than just the players. The gamers represent a limited audience, and you have to get other people. So I think that's what they're going for. And I feel like them not firmly planting their foot on one side or the other is going to possibly end up biting them in the ass. I feel like they're not going super source faithful, like some of the Marvel stuff that we like, and they're not going wholly fresh. So it's also at the same point a little alienating to people that don't know anything about Halo. That's just my perspective. I really like the first episode, and I'm starting to feel concerns moving on to episode 2. Sean, what are some of your thoughts?
I completely disagree with you. In the sense that I think they'll alienate this or that or whatever, but I just mean in the sense of, so they did announce, or it was I don't know if it was a press release or if it was just someone doing an interview, but they basically said they did not pull from the story of the games at all, like in any way, shape, or form. But there are over like 30 Halo novels apparently, and I've never read any of them. I'm not a huge reader, so I've never like gone to get the backstory and the lore and what is the impetus of the entire Covenant War and the Flood and everything else that comes along with it. I've never gone and done that, so I don't know for 100% sure if they are following that storyline that was built in the novels with like John's backstory and his childhood and stuff like that. I don't know if they're going that way, but they definitely aren't following the games. It's not the story from the games that we know. I actually thought that would work better for an audience that isn't faithful to the games story-wise, because you're just taking it as it comes. It's all brand new. And I actually appreciated that, knowing the games as well as I did back then. And I kind of, it's been so long since I played the originals that it kept me on my toes. I didn't know what was coming next, especially all through the first episode and into the second one, which is much more of a character-based episode, right? There's not a whole lot of action going on in the second episode.
The most action is I'm gonna start calling him John, because he feels like he's more John than like the Master Chief. Like, sure. I think we got some Master Chief in the first episode, but when he's got the helmet off and it's all exposition and character development, I'm like, okay, this is John.
John.
The most exciting thing was him pushing a Jeep to the side, and I was like, oh, that was kind of cool. We
got the execution scene with Venture, played by Bern Gorman, who's fantastic, creepy
Game of Thrones. He's a hot mess in that show. But I want to ride a simulator of the little cart that they had.
Yes.
That was like flying through the tunnel, launched out, grabbed onto a cable, shot out into space, and I was like, well, that's exhilarating.
I can just imagine that being a ride, 100%. Whether it, like, I got back from Disneyland a few months ago, and it's like you can just imagine just a simulated. You got a screen in front of you. You got, and it just lets you and it catches you somehow. I think that'd be fantastic. Who owns Halo? Showtime, which is what, Viacom, I think, or something like that. Paramount, Viacom, Showtime. So who could they? I guess they would partner with like Universal or something to bring it to a Universal park.
Probably. I mean, Universal has rides based on like Warner Brothers properties. Like, Universal can do whatever they want. So I am existing on the fence of this show, meaning that if I don't start feeling more passionate about it in the next 2 episodes, I feel like giving it about 2 more, then I might be out. But also, it could win me back, because that's what happens when you really like something and then you're kind of wishy-washy on the second one. I'm like, okay, let's just kind of see where this goes. We will be talking about something that has quite the grasp on me immediately in what you would consider to be the pilot episode here shortly. And there's just going to be more and more content coming out and things to watch, so it's going to be harder and harder for shows to really demand my viewership and like
give it the solid 1 month worth of the membership I signed up for. You got the 1 week for free from Paramount Plus, and then you're hooked into at least a month. You paid $5 unless you got the ad free, which are killing me. I might upgrade. I freaking they play 30-second ads every like 10 minutes. I'm like,
because it's honestly a 55-minute episode without ads. Like, it's lengthy. So I'll give it the fact that they are doing what a lot of the higher budget streaming services are like afraid of, and they're giving full episodes. Yeah, like damn near Game of Thrones length, whereas like Moon Knight is like 45 with credits or something like that, low 40s. So I do appreciate that. I do feel like we're getting when we get to the end of the episode, I'm not like, oh man, that went by so fast, can't believe it's over. It's interesting they're going down this route. I would like to see some stuff with the Flood, maybe find out more about this girl that has the ties in with the Covenant, and kind of with the way that they were doing some of the voiceover at the end of the episode, seems like maybe has a tie with Chief as well. And gratuitous nudity at the end of the episode, because why not?
I don't think that was gratuitous. He barely saw a thing from a
Okay, let me take back the word gratuitous and just add in seemingly unnecessary. I'm like, and why is she
sure? Yeah, we didn't need to just spy on her, basically. I thought that was a little weird. Weird. I think
there was no story. There was no plot point to this.
There really was.
There's no. Go ahead.
It could pay off because we kind of see some scarring on her back and her shoulders. So maybe
the only way to see the scarring is a strip show,
basically. But it's maybe just to show, like, hey, she's been through some trauma. She's been through some physical issues in the past. And I think that the reason that she apparently can communicate and or interact with the relic, I think it's called the Keystone, is and so can John, is because maybe they're related somehow. So I think the flashbacks that we're seeing from him are going to relate somehow to maybe in those family settings. We're going to eventually see a sister or a twin of some kind, and they were torn apart. One of them was taken to UNSC, one of them by the Covenant, etc. So that's what I think is that's where they're going with that.
I was getting those vibes. I think I'm thinking with you here. So I think a part of the show, as it is with a lot of shows, is payoff's going to be a big part of it. So seeing where these things are heading, is going to have a lot to do with it. I think I just wasn't really invested in the story of this episode. is what it boils down to. Because it was very central to his friend from 22 years ago, I believe is what it was, and I wasn't buying into it. I was waiting to move on from that story.
Okay, you're just like, when is it? I kept thinking the shoe was going to drop, where he was going to turn them in, he was going to be a scumbag or something like that. It seems by the end that John says, hey, can I trust you, and leaves Quan behind. So I think that we're gonna see. I was telling Gio this over on Apocalypse. If you haven't checked out Apocalypse movies, I'm doing reviews with Gio over there, and I think that's going to be the last time that we see Quan and John, at least in the same story thread. I think she's going to go her own way and maybe start a rebellion to go back and get her planet back and essentially take over her father's shoes and win it back from the Marines. That's kind of how I think. And maybe Soren is going to be there to help.
I'm kind of waiting for her to somehow, after learning to really trust John or something, get recruited into being a new form of Spartan, because I don't think that she's ever going to work for the UNSC, because they're mostly garbage.
Yes, which is I think weird and hilarious at the same time. Ironic that the show itself is sponsored by the Marines. The U.S. Marines. And I noticed that at this episode, as the episode starts, sponsored by them, and then you're like, wait, you guys are portraying the UNSC as garbage people, like they're just out to destroy the galaxy and just be like a steadfast ruler. So I thought that was really weird. That was kind of an interesting dichotomy to watch the show with, and that in my head. I don't know. That was weird.
It was a tad bit ironic. Any last thoughts before we move on to the next topic?
No, I dig the show. I really like it. I originally over on Apocalypse, I gave it a 7 out of 10. I think I thought about it after sitting with it for a while, and I'm giving it the series as a whole so far, 2 episodes, and I'm giving it an 8 out of 10. I really like it, and I like that I don't know where it's going. I like that I know the game story, and I have no idea where the show is going to go, because then it's just not rehashing the same thing that's already in my head. There's no point to doing that with just better budget and graphics. It'd be pointless.
I will say it looks all the CG looks really good. The practical goes back and forth. The set design's really good, but I couldn't stop looking at his friend's arm and how much it looked like a rubber appendage. And I was like, why does that look so bad? Because there's so many things that really do look good, I think.
Let's check over here. Preston was saying he was watching a different channel. They were saying it is taking a lot from the novels. So there's a lot. And same thing Eric said, hey, Legends is rad. I haven't checked out any of the Legends books. So they could have an entire, anthology, I'm sure, of information. I just don't know. Exposure, running over Master Chief and Hall in GTA 5. I haven't used that hack before. Red versus Blue is hilarious. Do you know Red versus Blue from Rooster Teeth?
I do know Red versus Blue from Rooster Teeth. And speaking of Red versus Blue, I'm wearing a shirt that has Red versus Blue on it right here. And if you guys want to get a sweater or shirt or anything with 4 beautiful people on it, our TeePublic link is in the description. And I would love to see pictures of people wearing Flickin' Real. It hasn't happened yet, but it would warm my heart and soul.
First game came out in 2001. Thank you, Buck. Appreciate it.
So did Sorcerer's Stone and Fellowship of the Ring and X-Men and actually X-Men might have been 2000.
No, you were wrong. cut this out.
Cut that out.